Good morning, everyone. Good morning, church. Blessings to you today. Several of you have asked me to review yesterday's message and summarize it because many of you said you got a lot of personal um, instruction out of it. So I thought it'd be good to put it on our video this morning. And then those of you that have requested the notes, we'll send those out. Excuse me, this week. We were talking yesterday about how Peter failed dramatically in the garden. It's just a colossal failure by Peter, who is one of Jesus' closest disciples, and yet he stood right next to Jesus and tried to murder a Jewish soldier, not even a Roman, but a Jewish soldier, on behalf of Jesus, who had just given him hours of instruction on loving his neighbor. And by this will all men know that you're my disciples, that you have love. So how did Peter get that far off? How did he have all the wrong enemy, the wrong motives, the wrong idea, the wrong plan? And we just walked through 5 ways that you can tell Peter was in trouble. It's a good reminder to us to keep a check on ourselves. First of all, Peter was talking when he should have been listening. Jesus actually said to Peter in the upper room in Luke 22, Satan desires to sift you like wheat. It's another one of the titles I thought would be good for this message is called The Sifting, because it's all about Peter sifting. But Peter is very arrogant, and instead of being humble, he displays arrogance to talk back to Jesus that he'll die for Jesus. And he eventually will die for Jesus, but he was not listening careful when Jesus told him what was going to happen to him. He should have asked for more instructions and prayer and support. When Jesus gave him those instructions. Talking when he should have been listening. Secondly, he was sleeping when he should have been praying. Matthew 26, 36 and following. Jesus takes him into the Garden of Gethsemane and asks him to come, the closer disciples, to come all the way with him into the deeper part of the garden and pray. And Peter falls asleep. Jesus says, "Could you not pray with me just 1 hour?" While Jesus, by the way, is praying to the point that his face has began to bleed. He's been in extreme agony. God's going to send an angel to minister to him in the garden. He's going through so much to take all that sin, drink the cup of sin, as he calls it. And so Peter chooses comfort over discipline when he had the opportunity to discipline himself and pray. Jesus told him in the upper room, you need to pray through this temptation you're going to go through. The third thing we see is Peter fighting when he should be following. He's fighting people. He fights this Jewish soldier, the high priest. The person next to the high priest is the one that gets hit with the sword. And Peter, the servant of the high priest, Peter is fighting people, not principalities. Jesus has made it clear that he picked the wrong battle. And we're good at that. We get all mad at people around us when actually the enemy Satan is doing a great work against us and against others. And then he's also denying Jesus. The fourth thing is he denies in those denials that Peter's so famous for. We see Peter denying the commitment to Jesus rather than following through and remaining devoted. And that's a fear of man rather than a fear of God. And then we see Peter finding ultimately a career for himself. In John 21, he goes back to fishing. He's so discouraged by all his failures, he goes back to fishing. And in John 21, instead of following Christ's plan and going back to fishing for men, he's fishing for fish. And this is a place where Peter gives up rather than grows up. He gave up, and the Lord needs him to grow up. So he goes and instructs him to grow up. Now, when that happens, we see Jesus on the beach with Peter, helping him come back to ministry. And it's a beautiful plan of redemption, because in the plan of redemption, Jesus pays for our sins with his blood, and now we can be used of God. And Peter's going to preach messages in the book of Acts where thousands come to Christ. So what a beautiful picture of the redemptive plan. I just want to remind you guys today that wherever you are in the world of failures and not adding up, there's hope that you can grow up and mature and choose your disciplines and fight the right enemy and humble yourself before God like Peter did, and become a godly servant. So be blessed, follow along him today, and share this with others to bring hope to their lives.